Hey, everybody. Welcome to Leaders Lead. I'm Zach Husted, and I got Anvil, Paul O'Keefe with us tonight. Paul, Anvil, what's shaking? How you doing tonight, sir?
You know what? I'm shaking a little bit, and it's not from nervousness or anything like that. Right before I told you I was going to go get cleaned up for this, me and Brittany kind of took our own soul with a workout, and got some protein in, got a little bit to eat, but I'm still kind of feeling jittery. So I'm shaking, brother. How are you, Zach?
That I'm doing good, man. I got today was a good day. I got the first ever pheasant hunt in today with my little man. He's 10, so it was rad. I didn't know how he was going to take it, but man, he loved it. And when he got done, he's like, "Dad, thanks for taking me." And he's like, "Can we do it again?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yes."
What a
So
great experience. You know what? Doing those things as a young man with your dad, those are lasting impressions and lasting memories, and good for you.
yeah, man, it was super cool. Took the dog with us, Tucker. He
Hmm.
is a bona fide family dog, war hunting pheasant machine, and he just loves it. So it's more entertaining watching him work than anything. Hey, Paul, there is a whole bunch of people in this universe. I'm gonna
Hmm.
call you Anvil. Is that okay? Can I just
That's
call you Anvil on this?
Anvil's what we need to go by. That's good.
Right on. Anvil, there's a ton of people in this universe, in my network, that don't know anything about you.
Hmm.
And before we go there, I just want to say I met you like 2 weeks ago,
Yes, sir.
and and I want to explain the meet because it's super funny. So we go to this thing called Warrior Rising, and which, if you don't know about Warrior Rising, it's ridiculously awesome. And
The best.
I get this SOS memo from I think it was Teresa at Warrior Rising.
Hmm.
She's like, "Zach," she's like, "Go unlock the door. Someone's here. We need the door unlocked." And we're like at this amazing Friday night extravaganza, and I'm like, I don't even remember how to get out of this place. And I look up, and you're like, "Hey, can you unlock the door for me?" And I'm like down in like this open foyer, and you're standing up there, this big towering man, and I'm like, I'm like, okay. And so I'm like, crap, like I'm trying to find myself like the maze out of this place that we're in.
It was a
And I'm
little
like,
different.
it was a little different, and it was such a cool place. And so I'm like hustling to get to this place because like I don't know who you are or anybody else in
Sure.
this thing, right? And I'm like, I gotta go let this guy in. And so I start running down this foyer, and I get there, and I go open the door, and there you are. And one of the first things you do is you give me Nux in a big man hug, and you say, "Brother, thanks for opening the door for me." And I said, "That's what we do. We open doors for each other."
And you know what? I remember you saying that, and it's so it's so ironic that that's what you said, because it's the truth. We didn't know each other. We didn't know that we were going to have these conversations, but there was a little bit of like energy exchange there. You were wearing Jordan 9s, which were hot like fire, and I'm a big like shoe guy. So I like right when you came walking up, I'm like, all right, this guy's going to be cool. And
Yeah.
I remember you saying exactly that, and here we are.
Yeah, man. I love your energy. I love what you guys are doing. So let's talk a little bit about you. Enough about me.
Sure.
But so just so everyone knows, that's how Anvil and I met. Is me running like a crazy madman to go open doors for him. So, um,
Thank you.
yeah, man, that's what we do. So let's hear a little bit about you. Let's hear a little bit about your story.
So, where do you want me to start? How far back do you want me to go?
As far as you want to tell, brother, this is
Cool.
this is this is your chance to introduce you to this audience on Leaders Lead.
Okay. So I'm a military brat. Obviously, we talked a little bit earlier, and I told you about my dad being a chief master sergeant in the Air Force. He was a security forces member as well, so he was a cop in the Air Force, and he was part of the ground launch cruise missile team for security forces. So back in the day when we had these tractors that would go out and they had nukes on them, they had like Glica missiles, ground launch cruise missiles. They had to have a security detail that was trained up enough to fight off the enemy when these trucks were moving around and setting up all over Europe. And my dad was one of the guys that stood up the schoolhouse for that program, did a bunch of training with special forces through his career, and was just this hardcore, like he was a hard charger. So when I told you he made chief in 15 years, which is an E9 in the Air Force, he literally had it on his shoulder in 15 years. So he did half his career as a chief. So that kind of tells you what my dad was like. He was a leader, he was a mentor, and he was a doer. And I grew up, luckily, in a household with him and my mom that are both amazing people. Great values, great love of family. And I grew up and thrived in that environment with them. Growing up, I was a wild man. I didn't enjoy school other than to play sports and to meet girls. I was not a great student by any means. In fact, my senior year, I really screwed up. And I ditched so much school my senior year that I wasn't able to graduate. They still let me play quarterback on the football team and pitch for the baseball team and play basketball and do everything else with terrible grades. But when it came to graduation, we had a new principal that year, and he kind of went over everybody's records, and where I used to kind of skate by because I was an athlete, he kind of put his foot down because he didn't know who I was, and they did not let me graduate. So I had to, we were over in Europe, and they wouldn't let me back to school. I couldn't even come back to the school the next year to do a semester to make up for it. He just said no, and I had to go to the States and live with my grandparents, do a semester here in Arizona in the high school here, and graduated. I missed a lot of school, not just because I was ditching school. Let's go back a little bit. I missed so much school because I was playing men's baseball in Europe. There was a tryout that was put out in the Stars and Stripes. And at that time they had like the USFL, or the European Football League, not the US, the European League. And the Frankfurt Galaxy had a big tryout, and I wasn't big enough to go to that. I was still real skinny. I could throw a football 60, 70 yards at the time, but I was small. So all these GIs were going and trying out for these teams and playing pro sports overseas. Well, they had a tryout for a baseball team. And it was in Mannheim, Germany, which was about an hour from us. So my dad was like, bro, you gotta go. You gotta go try out. And I think he just wanted me to have the experience because I threw hard. I threw hard in high school. So I go to this tryout, and there might have been like 150 people there. It wasn't overwhelming numbers, but they're all like GIs that had played in college or, played ball somewhere and got hurt. So I'm out there with these guys that are 25 years old, 30 years old, and I'm 17. So I get on the mound and I start throwing, and I got picked up on the team. So I was one of the starting pitchers on the Mannheim Amigos, which is funny because it's the Mannheim Friends if you speak Spanish. The Mannheim Buddies or Friends or whatever. And I had to miss school every Friday because I had to ride a train to Mannheim, play baseball all weekend, and then sometimes I wouldn't come home until Monday. So I was missing like Fridays and Mondays. And then it got even weirder because the team in Paris, in Paris, France, called my manager, and they wanted to make a trade so that I could go play in Paris. So I'm 17 years old. I'm throwing like high 80s consistently with balls dropping off the table. And now I'm playing baseball in Paris. So instead of getting on the train on Fridays, I'm getting on the train on Thursdays. And I'm not ever going to school on Monday. So I'm missing Thursday, Friday, Monday. And I did
So let's
that
get this
almost
right.
all year.
Your dad, who's super disciplined,
Yeah.
like straight edge, chief master sergeant,
Yes,
following the
sir.
rules,
Yes, sir.
is letting his
Travel by himself all over Europe. And
at
I'm telling
17
you,
go play ball.
dude, at 17, you shouldn't be doing that. I'm just gonna.
No.
I was not mature enough for that. I started talking to ladies that were way older than me because I'm out with the team at night and we're going to clubs and stuff. I'm 17, so I'm growing up really fast. You know,
I can just imagine.
My mom was mortified. These French women would call my house. Like I'm living with my parents, so I'm a kid. Oh, can I call you next week? Sure. Give them my number.
Here's my number.
And now I got a French lady calling, asking if she can speak to Paul. And my mom's like, who is this? And it was a great experience. I had a lot of fun. I kind of ruined it. That same year, I broke my arm skateboarding, and I didn't finish the season with Paris. I had surgery on my arm, didn't graduate, came back to the States, and I thought, okay, well, I'll pitch in Arizona for a year, and then I'll go play college ball. Well, I wasn't eligible to play because I had all my 4 years already. I thought that I was going to be able to play, but I wasn't. So I was kind of salty. I tried out with the Cubs out here in Arizona, got cut. And then I was working retail. I was working for like Dillard's, selling suits and shoes, got really into fashion. I've always been an artist, so I was doing paintings and drawings and working at Dillard's, and I just got sick of it. And in the back of my mind, I always thought my dad was this superhero because he was. And I'm like, you know what? My dad's done so well with this and treated me so good my whole life, was always my coach, always said the right thing, always knew what to do, took me everywhere. And I'm like, I'm going to join the Air Force. So I talked to my dad. I'm like, hey, Dad, I think I want to join the service. So he helped me get a waiver for my arm because I had to get like a bunch of hardware taken out of my arm. The same doctor that did my surgery in Germany was at Luke Air Force Base where my dad was stationed. So I had the same doc take my hardware out and restructure my bone, like shave my bone back and let it heal. And once that healed, I joined the Air Force. And I didn't really know what to expect. I knew what my dad did in the Air Force, but I didn't know that all of the life lessons that my dad had given me were going to translate into leadership roles in the Air Force. So I did 10 years in the Air Force. I started out as a law enforcement cop, working gates and working patrols on base. I worked in the armories for a while, and then I got the opportunity through a little bit of insubordination. I got an opportunity to become a desert warfare training instructor at Silver Flag Alpha. And that's that picture that I showed you back there. When they closed the schoolhouse, I did that to commemorate the closing of the schoolhouse. So that schoolhouse opened up in 1985. My dad had taken 3 different teams up there to go to this school, so he knew all about it. And when I told him that I was going to be a Silver Flag instructor, he was like, what? And I'm like, yeah, man, I had some problems at work last week, and my chief called me in, and he said, well, I can do one of 2 things. I can give you a letter of reprimand, and you can stay where you're at, or there's an opening at Silver Flag that I think you're perfect for. And I'm like, let's go, baby. And I became an instructor. The thing that happened to get me there, I had a young staff sergeant that came into the armory new. He came from Korea, and good guy. Like, I actually really like him. We're friends now. At the time, I did not like him. I thought he was a total dork. He's like real big into karate and like always had to like act like he was tough and stuff. And again, he's young. He's a young staff. So I give him a little leeway now. But he wanted me to paint the armory over a 3-day shift. And he brought in all the paints, brought in all the brushes and paper and tape. He brought all that to me. I'm like, all right, man, I got to clean these heavy weapons. I got to block ammo. I can do it. I'll get it done. And he's like, all right, cool. So for 3 days, I'm at the armory for, our 12-hour shifts. I'm doing the normal stuff, getting the guns out to the flights, blocking ammo, having them clean their weapons, cleaning the heavies, doing all that crap. And at the same time, I'm taping off the whole armory. I'm blocking everything out to do a good paint job. And I paint this armory. And I painted that armory like it was a very important task. I took it seriously and I killed it. There wasn't one drop of paint spilled. Every line was clean. 3 coats, all good. So Salazar, Joe, my buddy, that was my new supervisor. By the way, I had a line number for staff also. So I'm a senior airman, but I'm also getting ready to put staff on. He just put it on. So we're in this armory, and again, I like this guy, so I'll tone it down a little bit because we're good. But at the time, he comes in and he's like, "Wow, this looks really good. It's the wrong shade of paint. It's the wrong shade. It's too dark." And I was like, "Well, you brought me the paint, bro." And he's like, "Yeah, I'll bring more. Next shift. I'll bring some more on your next shift, and you can do it again." And I looked at him. I'm like, "Bro, I'm not doing it again." And he's like, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, "I'm not doing it again. Like, get one of the other guys to do it, or you do it. You're here for 3 days now. You do it." And he's like, "I'm a staff sergeant." And I kind of laughed, like I thought he was kidding. I'm like, "Bro, I just met you like 2 weeks ago. I know you just put staff on. I'm going to be a staff in like a month. Like, you don't have to talk to me like a little kid." And he kind of, I forget what he said, but it pissed me off. And I said, "Look, motherfucker." Sorry. I said, "Look." Okay. I said, "Look, buddy, I'm not doing it. And if you keep getting in my face, I'm going to kick your ass." And he kind of paused. I said, "And that's it." And I left. So I go back to my dorm room. I'm in the cop dorms at Nellis. And I don't know. I've been in my room maybe 10 minutes. Phone rings.
It didn't go well from there.
No, it's my chief. So, "Hey, O'Keefe, do me a favor. Get back in uniform. Come to my office." Roger that. So I go to the chief's office. Calls me in. And I'm getting ready to get my ass ripped, right? Well, this chief knows me, knows my work ethic, knows my drive, knows all the things that I do extra. My boots look like a mirror. My uniform is so stiff it hurts to wear it. My beret is always on. My hair's right. My sideburns are usually pretty long, but my hair was usually pretty good. So I'm not the guy that continuously does dumb stuff. I'm the guy you send to go do a hard task because I'll do it. So he's like, "Yep. O'Keefe, Salazar said you threatened him. He wants me to write a letter of reprimand and blah, 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 all these other things. Let me hear what happened." So I told the chief. We go look at the armory. He's like, "Man, this looks awesome." He's like, "Hey, go back to his office." He's like, "Look, man, this job opened up out at Silver Flag. Do you want to teach desert warfare? Do you want to teach patrolling? Do you want to help with pre-ranger for the Air Force? Do you want to work on all the ranges and blow shit up and, do that? And I can just sweep this under the rug and I'll put you out there. Let's do it." And so I ended up becoming an instructor. And
awesome.
Oh man, it was the best position I have ever had with another group of men. There was at any given time, there's only like 12 to 20 of us, somewhere in there. And everybody was on their game. Everybody was a team member for the team first. And we taught, 200 and 300 students a month how to do things properly in a desert warfare environment. And I got to blow everything up. I got to shoot everything. I got to be proficient at tactics and entering buildings and doing all kinds of stuff. And I never would have had that opportunity had I not gotten in trouble. So sometimes things work out. You got to hold your ground and know your values. And if you're consistently good, people recognize that.
Wow, what a story. So you served for 10 years. How long were you at Silver Fox for?
So I was at Silver Flag for
Silver Flag, sorry. Silver Flag.
5.5 years.
That's awesome.
It was so good, man. The guys, me and the guys all still talk. We have a bond that is lifelong. We're actually next year, my jewelry company is going to be doing a cruise. We're sponsoring a cruise that's all bikers and veterans. And like 20 couples, 20 of my guys from back then and their wives are going to be on this cruise also. So it's going to be insane.
That's awesome.
Someone's going to end up in the ocean.
You shouldn't say that.
It'll happen.
Oh,
and I probably know which guy.
Oh my gosh. All right. So you're in the service. You did a whole bunch of rad stuff. Talk to me a little bit more about your timeline so people can hear a little bit more about you, because that was an awesome introductory of like your formative years of what you did.
Sure.
Let's talk a little bit more about who you are.
Okay. I used to think I was all these things. When I got out of the service, I struggled a little bit. I've had my brain rattled around a few times, and I was struggling when I got out. I lived with my sister for about 2 years, and I pretty much stayed in my room. I painted. I just did giant paintings all day, every day, just to do something because I was not feeling well. Gave all those paintings away. There's people that have big oil and watercolor and acrylic paintings all over Arizona that I couldn't even tell you how many paintings I did. But I love art, and that kind of stabilized my mind for a while. I started fighting MMA about 2 years.
Wait, what? You fought MMA?
Yeah, I didn't want to work for anybody. I had a real chip on my shoulder when I got out. So I started fighting MMA on a kind of like a whim. I was working at a bar, managing a bar, and I met a guy that I hired as one of our security guys, and he had a black belt in jiu-jitsu and used to teach combatives for the Army, and he was a pro fighter, and he was going to be fighting on this card in Denver. And me and him were really close. So we trained together. I'd help him train, and one of the heavyweight fights fell off of this card. One of the guys got injured or pulled out. And his buddy called him and said, "Hey, do you know any heavyweights that are ready to fight this weekend?" So he called me and he's like, "Paul, you're one of the meanest people I know. You hit harder than anybody I know. Why don't you take this fight? I'll get you $5,000. And that was a lot back then. That was a lot of money. But they needed a heavyweight to fight this kid. So you'll get $5,000 and just go have fun, man. It's no different than what we do." And I'm like, "Let's do it." So we drive up to Denver, and we fought at the Budweiser Arena in like Fort Collins in that area.
Yeah.
And I was like one of the last fights. So my buddy was the main event, and I was like right before him. And I have no fight experience other than like in gyms and combatives and stuff like that. So they call me out, and this promoter, his name is Shannon Rich. I don't know if you've ever heard that name. He's a former military guy. Then he was like a government contractor. He's done all kinds of high speed stuff. kind of a crazy dude, right? He's like, hey, Paul, Anvil, wear this out there. And I'm like, really? And he gives me this Grim Reaper mask. And so I'm like, he already knows that I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And he's just utilizing me to make like a show. So I put this thing on. I could barely see. And I'm walking out. There's smoke going off and, all the music's playing. And I'm looking around. And Zach, I'm telling you, buddy.
It's a full house.
It was packed. The Budweiser arena was jam-packed. They promoted the hell out of this thing. So I come walking out and I'm looking around. And I'm not one to shy away from like crowds or talking or doing anything. Because you know what? You only live once. So why be scared of anything, right? So right. I'm walking out and I get this feeling. I'm like, this is what I'm going to do. I've never felt that much energy in my life. So I'm walking out there.
Ticket, didn't you?
Oh, dude, I'm feeling good. I'm jacked. I'm tan. I got this stupid executioner mask on. The crowd's going nuts because I'm in this stupid outfit, right? So I'm walking up. Nobody knows who I am, but the crowd's going crazy. And I get in the cage, do my little lap around. I'm looking at my guy across the way, and his name was Jesse Fajorek. Jesse the Ronin Fajorek. That was my first fight. And he was underweight, so he was like 245 pounds. I barely made weight at 265. I cut like 20 pounds to be there. And that happened in the course of a couple days. So I'm like super dehydrated, and then they the bell rings and the ref says, fight, and we come out and touch gloves. Now I'd worked mitts and stuff and I hit hard, but I'm not a boxer. And at that point, my punch combinations were straight hard jab, straight right, hook, overhand right. That was about it. If I hit you with it, you're dead. If I didn't, oh well. So we square off. I hit Jesse with a jab, and I think it stung him pretty good. Then he hit me with a jab. I'm like, okay, that was different because I didn't see him even throw it. It just bam.
Oh no!
I'm like, because he's fast. So and long, like he was taller than me. He was long. So his jab came out of nowhere, and I could feel the blood in my mouth. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to be able to box with this guy because I don't even know what the hell just happened. Like, who hit me? I'm literally looking around like, who hit me?
So I just had a conversation with this guy named Wiz Buckley, and we talked about the proverbial like professional get punched in the mouth. You're talking about like the actual somebody just knocked you in the mouth, and now I
thought I was gonna go out there and hit this kid with 4 punches and send him to the hospital because I do hit hard, like very hard. So he hits me. And I can taste this blood. And instantly I'm like, do not box this kid. It's not going to be good. So I shot a double leg and picked him up like onto my shoulders. And I ran him from my side of the cage all the way to his side. And I slammed him into the cage. Bro, I shit you not. The cage went from vertical, it broke. So the cage broke. It like came undone. Like whatever was bolted or not bolted, it broke. And the cage is like falling forward. So they had to fix the cage. So now this kid knows like, okay, if this guy grabs me, it's not great. So
he just made the grizzly bear upset.
I didn't know what else to do. So the cage breaks, they fix it, there's a little pause. We get entangled up again, and he was a Gracie jiu-jitsu guy. Very good. He was actually very good. So he choked me and I tapped. It was the best thing for me at that time to get out there, put on a show, learn what it was about, and then go home and train my ass off for the next one. Because once I did that, I'm like, I'm not going to end this on a loss. I need another fight soon. So I came back to Arizona and I got really, really serious about training. I was training at different camps. I put wrestling mat down in my sister's garage. The whole garage was matted and cut to fit. I had tie bags. I had guys that would come over and work with me every day. I'm flipping tires down the street. I'm running hills. And I really learned all aspects of fighting from the ground up very quickly. And I got some good coaches that used to work at Fairtex that were kickboxers. And my striking got really good really fast because I am an athlete, or I was
Right.
high level athlete. So I listened and I was coachable. So I started taking more fights and I started knocking people out. And that lasted from like 2007 till like 2006 to 2012. And in 2012, that was my last MMA fight. And that was for a heavyweight title, which I lost. But again, one of the best experiences of my life.
Who did you fight against?
Adam Padilla. So he's a guy out here from Arizona, big monster of a man. Like when we were getting ready to fight, he's pinched, putting videos up like benching 500 pounds and doing just a monster. But we had a great fight. We agreed before the fight because we respected each other. We just agreed that we were gonna come to the middle of the cage and bang, and we did that for quite a while. And I knocked him down. I thought he was out unconscious, so I slid in and I tried to get him up against the fence to just keep hitting him until the ref stopped the fight. I smashed him and woke him up. He woke up. He was out. I hit him. He wakes up. We get tangled up, and I got choked because I let my guard down. I thought the fight was over.
Man.
But we talk about it all the time. Like we both landed some bombs, and it was fun.
So that gets us to 2012. You fought MMA.
Yeah.
So you did the service for 10 years. You get out. You go through this journey of self-reflection of painting for 2 years, and then you go fight MMA for like what, 8 years?
About that. It was like 7 years, something like that, 7, 8 years.
And then what?
So when I was fighting, I was working corrections out here in Florence. I wasn't full-time. I worked part-time as a corrections officer. I was doing that. I quit fighting. I opened a gym with some of my buddies. We opened like a hardcore, like no BS, like strongman MMA gym. We trained athletes from high school. We trained D1 athletes. We trained pros. We had all kinds of people that came to our gym for the energy. We had a pro fight team that we traveled with and I coached. And it was a great time. Running your own business, though, running your own gym, especially with partners, it's hard, especially when not everyone's on the same sheet of music. So we closed the gym down, and I started working for another jewelry company called Knight Rider Jewelry out here in Arizona. And
Okay.
I ran their road shows for almost 5 years. So I'd go to all the Harley rallies and auctions and stuff like that. And I would run their shows. And I did that for about 5 years until I decided it was time to do my own thing and make my own mark. So I left. I gave them a 90-day notice. I left. And then I started a nonprofit with a couple of my buddies called the Mother of All Rucks Foundation, or the Moore Foundation. And we ruck marched from San Diego to Washington, D.C. to raise money for wounded veterans.
Time out. You just said from San Diego
Yeah.
to Washington, D.C.
Yes, sir. 2,800 miles.
You rucked.
We rucked it. Yes, sir.
Let For people who don't understand what that means, let's pause
We
and
walked.
explain what let's explain what the magnitude of that means. From San Diego to Washington D.C., you walked.
Yes, sir.
With a backpack on your shoulders.
Yes, sir.
How long did that take you?
If we would have done it without stopping at like bases and doing like home run derbies and fun runs and fun rucks and stuff like that, we probably could have got it done in about 5 months, 4.5 to 5 months. It took us almost 6 because we did a lot of events. And we were promoting it the whole time. We got to be, on a bunch of news stations and podcasts and radio interviews. It was awesome. It was awesome.
Dude, I can't fathom that experience. Like rucking is exploded, right? Like
Yeah.
it's a big deal now. And you guys rucked from San Diego to Washington D.C.
Yes, sir. So there was 5 of us on the team, and this is how we did it. Not all 5 of us were always there. Me and my buddy Victor did all of the ruck together. Like we did every day. The other team members, sometimes they had obligations at home, and they would come and go. We had people that would meet us, but we tried to do 22 miles every day as a team. So if there was 2 guys, you're going to ruck at least 11 miles that day each. We would have legs. If there was more guys, it was easier. But when it was just down to like 1 and 2 people, you're doing the full thing yourself. I broke my ankle in Texas as we were going across. We were setting up at a VFW, and I was walking around in the grass after we did a ruck, and I stepped in like a prairie dog or a gopher hole, and I broke my right ankle. So, and I always have problems with my ankles anyway, so I thought I sprained it. So I kind of limped around on it for a couple days, and I was dying. Like it was bad. So we found a local podiatrist. They did x-rays. I had a fracture in my ankle, and he's like, well, you're done. I'm like, can't be done. This is, my organization. I got to go. Do you have any of those braces that you can tie up? So he gave me a really good brace, and I would put the brace on and then duct tape my ankle and put my boot on, and then we'd go ruck. And after about 3 hours, I couldn't feel it. So it didn't really matter.
Time out. You walked from Texas to Washington, D.C. with a broken ankle.
Yeah, but I'm sure it was partly healed by the time I got to D.C.
Dude. Like, that doesn't, like, let's comprehend, like.
It was all stressed up, man. It was good.
That's ridiculous.
A little bit of pain never hurt nobody. I mean, it does hurt you, but you got to deal with it the way you want to deal with it. I've had a lot of injuries, man. I'm so over the course of my military career, through athletics, I've been injured a lot. Like I snap, crackle, and pop more than a bowl of Rice Krispies every morning. It takes me a while to get warmed up and get loosened up sometimes because I've had a lot of injuries. But you know what? Like you kind of learn to deal with them. And I don't drink anymore. I used to drink, and I would just suck down a couple beers before we started walking, or have one in my ruck. And I thought it was, helping me cope with my ankle and my back and all that stuff. I was just getting drunk. I mean, it wasn't a good thing to do, but that helped, I guess, at the time.
Unbelievable. Let's walk through. Now you get to Washington, D.C. You've made it through your journey. You got a broken ankle. You've gone 2,800 miles.
It's healed by then.
Okay, you walked through the healing of a broken ankle with a ruck on your back. 2,800 miles for your nonprofit to support fellow veterans.
Yes, sir.
For a cause.
Yes, sir.
Now what?
So we got done with it, and we had some growing pains on the ruck. No one really knew. We did it very fast. Nonprofit. We started our nonprofit very quickly. When I said we were going to do it, like when I called all these guys, because the phone calls were like, "Hey man, it's Anvil. What are you up to?" "Oh, I'm just barbecuing. You want to walk across America with me and raise some money for wounded vets?" "Yeah, man, I'm in." "Cool. I'll call you tomorrow." Next call, and all the calls were like that because my guys are solid guys. Like they're very giving. You know what I mean? These guys they're dudes that are always going to have your back. So those conversations were easy. Setting up the nonprofit was going to be the tricky part because we wanted to start before it got cold, and we wanted to miss bad weather across the country. So we got the nonprofit started up real fast. And when we were doing all this stuff, like anytime there was a obstacle or an event that came up that we had to do or an opportunity, you got four guys and a gal that all have their own opinion of what we should be doing. We all need to get back to our wives and kids and our husband and kids. And we were together for 5 freaking months, like in an RV, stinky and the toilet's full again, and the air conditioning broke, and all this stuff. And we had it set up so that donations that came into our foundation, 100% of that went to veterans. We didn't take a dime for anything. So gas for the RV, food for us, all that stuff is coming from us individually, and we're running out of money. Our families are back home, and my wife's calling me every 10 minutes. I got to pay this bill. I got to pay this bill. And there were some growing pains. So we started a GoFundMe for just the team. And we said, look, we're doing this thing no matter what, but it's getting real hard because we don't have any big donations. If you want to donate to the team specifically, go here. So then we started getting people taking note because we were on the TV and stuff. And we did get money for ourselves to eat and to, buy things that we needed for the RV when it broke down. And because it broke down like 3 times. That was our trail vehicle. But that was donated to us too. So we couldn't look a gift horse in the mouth. We just kept fixing it. And when we got to DC, we went and saw all the monuments and we did all the cool stuff. And the end of the Ruck March was, it wasn't what any of us thought it was going to be. There's no fanfare there, and that's not what we were doing it for anyway. But it just felt like, hey, it's over. Like, what do we do now? Like, what do we do now? Like, what am I going to do now? I just walked across America. How can I ever do anything that's going to be that cool again in my life? And how can I impact others still? So I started designing my own jewelry. And I met up with one of my buddies that had worked with the same company that I used to work for. And he was doing his own thing. And his stuff was okay. But I showed him all the things that I wanted to make for veterans. And he's like, dude, let's do it. So we started Anvil's Cachet, which is the name of my company, used to be called Metal Urgency. And Metal Urgency was started by my buddy Jimmy. He brought me on as a partner. I started doing all the design work. I was going on the road selling. And it just ended up being something that he didn't want to do anymore. And he knew that I had the passion for it. So he started a luxury jewelry line and let me keep the hardcore line. And we're great friends. We talk all the time. I love the guy to death. We're just doing different things now. So now it's me and Brittany running Anvil's Cachet, and we do custom jewelry that benefits wounded veterans.
Right on, dude.
Kids. Yeah.
And kids. And I got a chance to see some of it. It's rad.
It's pretty cool.
It like the intricacy of the detail. Brother.
It is different. If
It
I can
is.
see it in my mind, I can do it. That's how I
Yeah.
feel about anything. If I can think it up and put enough heart and soul into it, I can do anything. And that's how I feel about life. And it hasn't always been like that. I've been in some dark places, and I know how that feels. And I'm lucky
Yep.
to be here through the grace of the
Yeah.
good Lord and my wife. I'm still here.
Thank you.
And thank you. And now it's time to do for others, And by doing that, it helps me. I've
Yep.
grown as a man a lot. Like I'm not friends with all the same people that I used to be friends with, even from that ruck march, just because of differences of personalities and opinions. But that's okay. I'm who I am. I don't apologize for it. They don't apologize who they are, and we're kind of doing our own thing now. And now we're kind of coming back and talking to each other a little bit.
Yeah. There's um there's growth in relationships too, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's totally cool. Hey, thanks for sharing such a um in-depth look at who you are, who Anvil is.
Well, thank
But
you for
I
letting me.
think, yeah, man, I think you're missing part of the story though.
Yeah. What's that?
Well, I very, very briefly met Brett,
Yeah.
and I couldn't help but notice that there's another part of this too. Can you share us a little bit more about? I see that smile.
Which part?
Yeah, there's Britt, and what else is there?
Oh, Chief, my son.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you met my little boy, who is
yeah.
now he's just over 5 months old. You did
He's a
not meet
handsome little devil.
he's a good looking little guy. He's a stud. And I have 3 daughters as well that you
Okay,
probably didn't know that.
I
So
didn't
I'm
know
a
that.
dad. And when you ask like who are you? Who is Paul? Who is the Anvil? I would tell you today I am I'm a man looking for peace. I'm a father first, and I have been given the task by my Lord to be the best dad and mentor to these kids as possible. And if I had to say what I was today, it's a father that cares about his kids and other kids. And my mission now is to touch as many lives as I can in a positive way so that when I meet someone or leave an impression on someone, I leave them better and I leave them happier than when they didn't know me.
Yeah,
I just want to be a good guy, man.